I was visiting a childhood friend a few weeks ago who we will call Steve, and after reminiscing on the past for a while, we've decided it was time to drink. We bought a cooler into the large property he had bought off his parents. This was the same place he grew up and I would often visit, so we knew the path to go down. We had a specific place in mind. When we were kids, we explored this property all over, pretending like there were monsters in the forest and scavenging for makeshift tools. Of course, a fort or base was high on the priority list, so when we found what appeared to be a doomsday-style bunker, we quickly established this as a new hangout spot. Eventually, we even got the generator in there to start working, and we would just watch movies and hang out. However, as we became teenagers, it also became a place to hide away alcohol and drink without his parents finding out. Even though we were now adults and Steve owned this property, there was something nostalgic about going into the bunker to hang out. We talked for a while, but at some point he had to go back to the house, but assured me he'd be back in a few minutes. Considering it's about a 15-minute walk, I knew it would be a while. So while he was gone, I decided to go into the bunker and see if everything was still working. As I climbed down the ladder, the dust and cobwebs told me that it had been a minute since he had been down here. However, I eventually found the generator and some remaining gasoline in a container and started it up. The lights came on and I realized he must have not gone in here since we were teenagers. The steel chair setup was the main area with the television and VCR player hooked up. The storage area had plenty of old MREs and astronaut food, covered in a thin film of dust. I walked over to the VCR and noticed there was a dusty box next to it with several movies. As I shuffled through them, I came across a tape with black Sharpie on it, labeled "Those Things I Fear." I had no recollection of watching this, or even what it could be. However, I figured it was just some obscure horror film and I was pretty bored. I put the tape into the VCR and turned on the television, wiping the screen off so I could actually see. The tape showed just a black screen for about 15 seconds before an image came on that appeared to be a security camera from the upper corner of a room. There was a format for a time and date, but it appears to be random numbers. In the room there was a television and a couple of chairs. As I watched with curiosity, I noticed in the background a ladder come down. And two teenagers begin to climb down and then sit down in the chairs. As I continued to watch, my blood ran cold. Those kids were me and Steve, but he had never been recording as far as I know. I look up to where that camera would have been in the upper corner of the bunker. No camera or any sign of a camera being there. I ejected the tape and shut off the bunker before heading back to Steve's house. I found him slumped on this couch, clearly unable to walk. "Hey Steve, did you have cameras set up in the bunker when we were kids?" I asked him, unsure if he was in any state to respond. "Camera? No man, why would I put cameras in there?" Steve responded, not giving it much thought. "Well, I found this tape and put it back," Steve interrupted with a sudden sense of soberness in his voice. I began to respond when he stood up suddenly. "Listen to me carefully. Put it back where you found it and come back to the house." I nodded and headed back down the trail to do what he said. I wanted to question his strange reaction, but something told me he was right. At this point, I felt like eyes were on me from all directions as I made my way back through the woods. I finally arrived at the bunker and placed the tape back on the box, then headed back. Steve didn't want to talk about it at all, and we hung out for the night, and the next day I returned home, forgetting about the experience entirely. I tried to chalk it up to some sort of weird prank, but that didn't seem too convincing of a theory. But either way, I pushed it out of my mind, getting back to my everyday life. That was until a week later. I had gotten home from work early that day when I decided to check my mailbox. I found a package with no return address. When I opened it, all that was inside was a VHS tape. It labeled, "Those Things You Fear." I hope you guys enjoyed today's story. Thank you so much for listening. Now, huge thanks to the Redditor u/cmseebold. I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm so sorry. But thank you so much for granting me permission to narrate your story. I sincerely appreciate that. Now, once more, I hope you guys enjoyed today's story, and I will see you in the next video. So, don't forget to sit back, relax, and indulge in fear.